Imagine this. A tiny twin island nation in the Caribbean, and it's hosting a major diplomatic visit from one of the world's fastest growing economies.
Yeah, it's happening right now. And believe me, this is way more than just some ceremonial handshake.
Definitely. So today we're doing a deep dive into Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Trinidad and Tobago. It's set for July 3rd and 4th, 2025, a really significant trip.
Exactly. And our mission really is to unpack all the layers here. You've got history, culture, strategy. It all comes together to make this visit, well, pretty pivotal.
We'll be looking at that long legacy of Indian migration, how it shaped Trinidad and Tobago's identity, which is incredibly vibrant, by the way.
And the practical side, too. What does a stronger partnership with a global player like India actually mean for them on the ground?
Right. And to guide us, we've dug into quite a stack of sources. We've got news reports on the visit itself, historical accounts, some really deep dives into indentured labor.
Plus cultural analyses of the Indo-Trinidadian community and discussions about Trinidad and Tobago's own geopolitical thinking.
So quite a bit to cover. Where should we start? Maybe with the history. Seems foundational.
I think we have to. Let's start with those echoes of history. We need to go back 180 years. To really get the significance of this visit, you have to understand how it all began.
The arrival of the first Indian indentured laborers.
Precisely. On the ship Fetel Razak, it landed May 30th, 1845. That moment kicked off this huge movement of people.
And it wasn't just one ship, was it? This was a massive undertaking over decades.
Oh, absolutely. Between 1845 and 1917, you're talking over 140,000, maybe even 150,000 people brought from India to Trinidad, mostly from places like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar in the north.
And this was directly linked to the end of slavery, right? Filling that labor gap.
Exactly. The plantations needed workers after emancipation in 1834, and this was the solution they turned to.
It's just staggering to think about that scale. But what was life actually like for them? The journey, the work? I mean, it couldn't have been easy.
No, far from it. Life under indentureship was incredibly tough. The journey itself initially took around 3 months.
3 months on a ship back then. Wow.
Yeah, and conditions were terrible. Cramped, unsanitary. Disease like cholera, typhoid was rampant. Mortality rates were tragically high.
And once they arrived, on the sugar estates.
Life was ruled by these really strict contracts. Often the laborers were illiterate, so they didn't even fully understand what they were signing up for. And the penalties for breaking rules, they were severe.
Like what sort of penalties?
Well, for instance, just leaving the estate without what they called a ticket of leave. That could get you thrown in prison for 7 days.
Just for leaving work without permission?
Yep. So even though there were supposed protections written into the system, the reality was, planters exploited the situation quite heavily.
So facing these just incredibly harsh conditions, both the journey and the work, what's really striking is that most people didn't go back.
That's the amazing part, isn't it? Something like 90, maybe even 95% chose to stay. They made Trinidad their permanent home after their contracts were up.
Instead of returning to India, why do you think that was?
Well, it's complex. Maybe the journey back seemed just as daunting. Maybe they saw opportunities. Maybe they'd started families. But they stayed. They really became the backbone of the sugar industry.
And not just sugar, right? Didn't they move into other areas too?
They did. Later on, many shifted into independent farming, growing cocoa, wet rice. They played a huge role in broadening the agricultural economy.
So this massive historical wave, this decision to stay, it didn't just add numbers, it fundamentally reshaped the islands.
Completely. If you look at Trinidad and Tobago today, the Indian diaspora makes up, about 35 to 45% of the population. That's around 1.36 million people. They're the largest ethnic group.
And that influence goes way beyond just demographics, doesn't it? Let's talk about culture. How did Indian traditions weave themselves into the national fabric? Food is always a big one.
Oh, food is a perfect example. It's fascinating. Indian cuisine, those distinct curries, the cooking methods, they became totally interwoven.
So things we might think of as just Trinidadian food actually have these deep Indian roots.
Absolutely. Dishes like roti, doubles, you absolutely have to try doubles if you go aloo pie, folari, sahina. These aren't just popular, they're considered like national dishes now.
Wow. And even the tools.
Yeah. You'll find traditional Indian cooking utensils like the tawa, that's a flat griddle for baking, and the belna, a rolling pin, in kitchens all over the islands. It's just normal.
That's incredible integration. And it goes beyond the kitchen too, right? Into celebrations and festivals.
Definitely. Think about the national calendar. Diwali, the Hindu festival of lights, Eid al-Fitr for the Muslim community, Fagua or Holi, even Jose. These are all official national holidays in Trinidad and Tobago.
So the whole country recognizes and celebrates these festivals.
Yes. And beyond the official holidays, you have traditional performances like Ramleila, which tells the story of Ramayana, and Raslila dramas. They happen all across the country. It's part of the yearly rhythm.
And music. Did Indian sounds blend in too?
Oh, yeah. Instruments like the tasa drums, the tabla, dholak, majira cymbals, the sitar, they all arrived and brought new rhythms to the Caribbean.
You mentioned something really interesting before about an adapted instrument.
Ah, yes. The dantal. This is pure ingenuity. It's basically a long steel rod, originally used to link bullock yokes on the sugar estates.
So a piece of farming equipment.
Exactly. And they started striking it with a horseshoe to create this unique percussive rhythm. It's almost symbolic, isn't it? Taking something from that hard labor and making music out of it.
That really is powerful. And dance styles too.
Yep. You've got classical Indian forms like Kathak and Bharatanatyam being practiced and taught, alongside more modern blended styles like chutney dancing, which is huge, and of course, Bollywood influences.
So this cultural exchange touched almost everything. Fashion, language.
It did. Traditional Indian clothes like the sari, the salwar kameez, the kurta shirt, they became part of the local fashion scene, not just for special occasions, but integrated.
And language. Did Indian words filter into the local Creole?
Yes. Bhojpuri, which is a Hindi dialect many of the indentured laborers spoke, became a sort of common language for the East Indian community there. And lots of Bhojpuri words entered Trinidadian Creole English.
You can even see it on the map, right? Place names.
That's right. There are villages in Trinidad named after Indian cities. Faizabad, Barrackpore, Chandernagore. It's like little echoes of home planted in a new land.
And within this vibrant Indo-Trinidadian community, there's religious diversity too. It wasn't just one faith group that came over.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Hinduism is the largest group, maybe around 49.5%, so a plurality. But there's also a very significant Muslim community, about 11.6%, and various Christian denominations too, making up roughly 36.5%.
It paints a picture of a really diverse community from the start.
It does. And there are incredible stories of faith, like the Temple in the Sea. Have you heard about this?
I think I have, vaguely. Remind me.
It was built by one man, Siddhas Sadhu. His original temple on land got demolished. So he just decided to build it single-handedly on what was considered no man's land, literally in the sea, just offshore.
Wow. That's incredible determination.
It really speaks to that spiritual resilience, that enduring faith within the diaspora.
Okay, so we have this incredibly rich backdrop. 180 years of history, deep cultural fusion, and now this major diplomatic visit from India's Prime Minister.
Exactly. All that history and culture isn't just history. It's the living context for what's happening now.
And this visit by Prime Minister Modi, it's a big deal historically, isn't it?
Huge. It's his first official trip there as PM. And it's actually the first bilateral visit by an Indian Prime Minister since way back in 1999.
And the timing is key, too, lining up with that 180th anniversary of the Fatal Razak's arrival.
Precisely. It makes the visit deeply symbolic. It's acknowledging those historical roots we've just been talking about, connecting the past to the present.
And who he's meeting with is also quite significant.
Very much so. He'll meet with President Christine Carla Kangaloo and Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Bisesar, both women leaders, both of Indian descent.
Yeah, that really highlights how far the Indian diaspora has come politically in Trinidad and Tobago, doesn't it? And their ongoing connection to India.
Absolutely. And there's more. He's also addressing a joint session of their parliament, which is a powerful gesture in itself.
And isn't there a story about the speaker's chair in that parliament?
Yes. Apparently the chair itself was a gift from India years ago. Another one of those tangible links connecting the two nations across time.
Now, this visit isn't just a standalone trip for Modi, is it? It's part of a bigger tour.
That's right. It's a 5-nation tour. Ghana, Argentina, Brazil, for the BRICS Summit, Namibia, and Trinidad and Tobago. It really shows India's strong focus on engaging with the global South.
Which must be interesting for a country like Trinidad and Tobago. Does this offer them a chance to maybe diversify their international relationships, not rely so much on traditional partners?
It certainly presents that opportunity. India often talks about its partnerships being based on mutual respect, technology transfer, and scalable innovation. That's a different model, perhaps, than some traditional aid relationships. For Trinidad and Tobago, engaging more with India could offer a way to broaden its alliances, maybe reduce over-reliance on any single power bloc.
But that must be complex too, right? Shifting long-standing ties. Trinidad and Tobago has deep connections with, say, North America and Europe.
Mhm.
Is it really that easy to just pivot or diversify?
No, you're right. It's not easy. It's definitely intricate. Those historical and economic ties are deep-rooted. So it's less about a sudden pivot and more about strategic diversification, finding a balance. How do new partnerships, like this strengthening one with India, fit alongside existing relationships without causing instability? That's the diplomatic challenge, especially for smaller nations.
So it's more about adding layers than completely changing direction.
Exactly. It's about having more options, more partners tailored to different needs.
Okay, so beyond the symbolism and the strategic positioning, what about concrete cooperation? What's actually on the table during this visit?
There's quite a bit. India's already made offers to the wider CARICOM group, things like scholarships, mobile hospitals, diagnostic labs, access to generic medicines.
And specifically for Trinidad and Tobago.
Discussions are expected to cover a lot of ground. Medicine and healthcare are big, potentially local production of generic drugs, which is huge for accessibility, maybe cancer care equipment, mobile health units,
That sounds very practical. What else?
green energy, especially solar power, digital technology. There's talk of a pilot project for Fintech based on India's UPI payment system.
Ah, UPI. That's their massive digital payment network, right? Very successful in India.
Hugely successful. So bringing that kind of tech could be transformative. Then there's agriculture, promoting millets, providing machinery, education too, shared PhD programs, tech talent exchanges, and even disaster planning.
So a really wide range of potential collaborations.
Yes, covering quite a few key development areas.
One of the highlights seems to be what's called diaspora diplomacy. Modi's holding a big community event.
Yeah, in Cuba, they're expecting over 4,000 people from the Indian diaspora. This is a really direct engagement, tapping into those deep emotional and cultural bonds we talked about.
It shows the importance India places on its overseas communities.
Absolutely. And they're looking at practical ways to strengthen those ties, too. Things like extending the Overseas Citizenship of India, OCI scheme,
Yeah.
promoting professional exchanges. It's about keeping that connection active and modern, not just historical.
And there's a significant honor being given to Prime Minister Modi as well.
Yes, he'll be awarded the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the ORTT. It's the country's highest civilian honor.
Wow. What does that signify, receiving that award?
It's a major gesture. It really symbolizes the value Trinidad and Tobago places on this deepening relationship and recognizes Modi's role and India's role in fostering international friendship and cooperation. It cements the importance of the visit.
So putting it all together, we've traced this incredible journey. From the arrival of indentured laborers 180 years ago,
To how that fundamentally reshaped Trinidad and Tobago's culture, making it this amazing blend.
and now how that shared history and culture is actually forming the foundation for a modern strategic partnership between the two nations. It really bridges continents and centuries.
That's quite remarkable when you think about it. How things from so far away, cooking tools, festivals, music, became so deeply part of the national identity in Trinidad and Tobago, celebrated by everyone.
And now forming the basis for high-level diplomacy.
Exactly. It underpins this whole visit, this whole new chapter in their relationship.
It leaves you wondering, doesn't it? As Trinidad and Tobago and India strengthen these ties, and we see this happening more broadly with global South nations connecting, what happens next?
Right. What kind of new models for development, for cultural exchange could emerge when you mix these deep historical bonds with today's geopolitical goals?
Could this unique blend shape the future of international cooperation in unexpected ways? What could other countries maybe learn from this particular relationship between India and Trinidad and Tobago? Something to think about.